Hi, I'm Matt Oler. I recently had an opportunity to meet with Bethany Yoder of Perkins Eastman Architecture regarding a project that we worked together on using the award-winning Novawall product. I'd like to share a part of that interview with you.
So, Bethany, as the designer on the Smith and Nephew project, during the design phase, what are some of the things that the concerns of your client that are expressed regarding the acoustical performance of a space? Is that part of the discussion early on? Do you see that most of your clients are concerned about how a place is going to sound?
Right. And actually, I think it varies by client. At least in our experience, Perkins Eastman always comes to the table with acoustics in mind, because throughout the design process, each project is different. Each client, each site, everything about it. So really understanding the program from the very beginning, understanding volumes and spaces, what the client's needs are based off of their program, how they're using those spaces. There's always something with acoustics in every project that we are always considering throughout the design.
How do you typically approach those issues? One of the things that we see a lot is, especially in open plan, situation where you might have an accounting section or an HR section that might have some particular concerns about privacy from a security standpoint, and then they might be placed next to what we generally refer to as the noisy guys. That's usually like the sales department, people that are loud and there's a lot of collaboration. So how do you typically approach those spaces from a plan and design standpoint?
When planning, we try to at least minimize a lot of those extreme adjacencies. Put the quieter group or quieter rooms somewhere located away from some of the louder areas. In this, for Smith and Nephew, we actually had to put some quieter areas next to larger lab spaces. So even in those instances, we really take into consideration materials, how we're treating the floor and the ceiling, even down to the construction where we're sealing top and bottom of floors, penetrations in walls, and then what we're applying to those walls and how they're going to help with the aesthetics, whether it's absorbing or reducing any exposure to those noises from quieter spaces.
I have another question here that's kind of a two-part question for you and Ken regarding this particular project. Ken, were there any particular challenges on the project, on the Smith and Nephew project, that guided you to recommend the Novawall product, for the sections that we were involved with for acoustic panels?
Yeah, and in looking at the the initial design when we were going through the bid process, this was it was a pretty large scale project. It was 3 floors, and there was, I think, somewhere around 2,000 square feet of acoustic panels that were going to be placed into the space in various locations. One of the things that Bethany and I talked about, and even with the construction manager on the project, was the phases in which these rooms were going to be ready and prepared in, right? So for example, there may have been a space on the 3rd floor that was going to be needed to be completed and ready and done, but there was still construction and walls being put up on the 1st floor. So I came to Bethany and the construction manager at the time, and I recommended that we go with a site installed system, which one of the benefits of a site installed system like Novawall is the fact that we can go in there before the project's done in various stages and build to whatever's there. If, for example, the ceiling is a little bit out of square, whatever, from construction, we can build to what's there, and we can move on to the next space as it's ready. There's really no long lead times or anything when it comes to using a site installed system like that.
The obvious benefits of fit and finish, the ability for the product to really be adapted to whatever variables might be in the field, as well as scheduling. Bethany, there's some other things you've worked with Novawall in the past on some other projects with it. Are there some other things that you might have that, when you hear, oh, we're going to use Novawall on this, that, what makes it attractive to you? What makes it click?
What makes it click is the flexibility, the site install. I know we've discussed several what could have been or could be complicated installations in the past on past projects. Then that Novawall system it was our go-to, specifically for the site install. For Smith and Nephew, the product and the walls because we had it in almost every conference room, in collab spaces, it really came out true to what we wanted it to, because it was so site specific. We didn't have to worry about gaps or what that was going to look like in the field, because as you said, everything has a tolerance in construction. So it really came out great. And the other thing that was so great about the system and working with Ken is we were also able to go through a lot of fabric selections that really kept with the aesthetics that we were trying to achieve on the project. It's really nice to walk into a room that everything looks clean and really nicely put together.
Yeah, one of the things that we really like about the Novawall product, it does kind of give us, it affords us that ability to bring proper acoustics to the space without making it look like a grade school cafeteria, right? The acoustic panels should disappear. That being said, have you gotten any comments from clients that we've used, the Novawall product with, about how nice and tailored and, sort of invisible that works? And is it something that your clients bring to your attention during the design phase? We'd like to have good acoustics, but we don't want it to look like, panel everywhere, right? Or is that something that you bring to their attention during the design?
So Smith and Nephew actually, because they understood how they work and what they were kind of asking of their spaces with the loud labs, and then also the integrated collab locations throughout their open office, they actually, that was one of their top concerns, was acoustics. And we did bring in an expert specifically for the lab spaces. But when we approach any project, our immediate thought, there's tips and tricks you learn along the way. And a lot of the conference rooms and focus rooms, collab spaces, we really have learned how to apply an acoustic material that complements the room, the aesthetics, and also really gets the client what they need based off of acoustics within like a large boardroom next to a phone room that should really be quiet. So,
okay, now this is a tough question. At what point in a project do you internally sit down with your team and say, I think we need to bring an acoustical consultant in here? What are some of the things that kind of trigger that event?
When the planning, if we can't really work out something and we have an adjacency that we may not particularly like, we tend to talk about pulling somebody in. So we really start from the beginning. And with Smith and Nephew's case, we did start with the beginning with an expert for some of the more challenging spaces, things that are maybe a little outside of our knowledge when it comes to acoustics, such as equipment vibration or even just the noise that the equipment makes when in operation. So it really depends. Every project is different. It depends on if it's something as unique as what Smith and Nephew was with all the various space types.
Sometimes it's just a bandwidth matter, right? It's like,
yeah.
Let's give that to the specialist. Best time, sure.
Yep.
Well, do you have any the thoughts or questions for us regarding any of that?
No, I mean that the project went off great. everything looks great on site. The client's happy, we're happy. Novawall is a really great product. I know we've used it in several of our other projects across several different types of projects even. So, oh.
All right, folks, thanks again. We really, really do appreciate taking the time today. So thank you very much. And if there's anything we can do to help in future projects as well, please keep us in mind.